Elaine Hollingsworth wasn't always a health crusader. In her Hollywood days, she was called Sarah Shane, and she starred opposite Clark Gable. She kissed Rock Hudson too, playing his Tootsie in Magnificent Obsession. And she kissed John Cassavetes, playing his illicit lover in Affair in Havana. She played a devoted wife to James Mason, and Richard Conte, and Patrick O'Neill. She played Raymond Burr's faithless wife in a movie. But Raymond forgave her later and saved her from the electric chair when he was Perry Mason on television. Sarah ran away from Sean Connery and Anthony Quayle when they were trying to kill her, and swung from the trees with Tarzan in Kenya. Sarah was under contract to MGM Studios during their glory days and was catapulted into a glamorous life that she only dreamt about when she was a schoolgirl in St. Louis, Missouri. Suddenly, her acquaintances and friends were some of the most famous people on earth, but it wasn't all glitter and glamour. Legendary star Gloria Swanson took the 18-year-old under her wing and introduced her to natural health and healing. So all those years when she was living the high life in Hollywood and Europe, she was studying nutrition and learning from scientists Gloria recommended, and healing herself of health problems she had had since childhood. As she says, she learned early from Gloria that she had to exercise and stick to a strict diet in order to keep healthy and have the energy to work grueling days and do her own stunts. Sarah played lots of different characters in films and television and on stage. She was a schoolteacher in a western, a murderous countess with Carol O'Connor and Richard Basehart, a kidnapped princess in the German film The Vikings. And then her movie career petered out, and Sarah returned to her legal name of Elaine Hollingsworth and wrote health articles and television scripts before tackling her first book, Zolma. Inspired by the primitive conditions in an infamous Mexican penitentiary, Elaine posed as a social worker and spent 4 months inside doing research. Zolma was published by Warner Books in 1974 and became a cult classic that is still mentioned on the internet. Elaine says that she barely made expenses on the book, but that getting to know the men, who ranged from innocent victims to crazed killers, was a fascinating, life-changing experience. Still looking for adventure, Elaine spent 6 months living on a sailboat in the Caribbean, before settling in the West Indies island of Haiti, where she lived for 3 years, running a home furnishing business and dealing in Haitian art. Intrigued by the exotic island, she filed stories about Haiti's diabolical dictator, Papa Doc, who maintained his iron fist rule through intimidation and torture. Using a pseudonym to avoid jail and much worse, Elaine wrote about Papa Doc's villainy and described some of the comic opera revolution she witnessed. In 1954, when Sarah appeared on the cover of Australian magazine Pix, she never dreamed that 30 years later she would immigrate and become an Australian citizen. She settled on the Gold Coast, where she grew organic fruit and vegetables on her 5-acre property while writing articles for health magazines and continuing her research. Later, Elaine helped found Hippocrates Health Centre of Australia at Mudgeeraba in the Gold Coast hinterland. Then in 2000, her second book, Take Control of Your Health and Escape the Sickness Industry, was self-published. The book became an international success, but it wasn't easy. Because Elaine exposes the unvarnished truth, conventional publishers and distributors refused to handle it. So Elaine and her support team established a marketing tool they dubbed Citizen Distributors. Soon, hundreds of enthusiastic readers embraced the opportunity to purchase the book in quantity at wholesale, publicise it, and sell it for a profit or give it to friends. Eventually, word spread overseas, and they now ship by pallet loads to distributors in the United States, Canada, Europe, and New Zealand. The Hippocrates Foundation has donated thousands of Elaine's books to public libraries throughout Australia, so that no one in this country will be denied its life-saving information for lack of funds. Take control of your health and escape the sickness industry has been translated into German and Croatian and even Vietnamese.
We have made hundreds of thousands of friends all over the world. We have also made powerful enemies in the medical pharmaceutical complex. These are dangerous people, but we don't care. Bring them on.
Here in the studio we're joined by dietitian and author Sue Radd, who supports soy products. Good morning to you both. Thanks for coming on to Sunrise.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Elaine, I want to start with you if we can. I mean, it seems everything we've heard until now is that soy is the saviour product. All of the press, all of the marketing seems to say that. How come so many of us have got it wrong?
The marketing, that's the operative word here. This is blatant propaganda, which is being foisted on an innocent public by huge multinationals who are trying to sell their very, very dangerous product, which is actually killing babies. Feeding babies soy formula is the equivalent of feeding them 5 birth control pills per day. I am fielding the most horrifying phone calls from women every day, from not just Australia, from other countries, telling me about what soy formula has done to their babies. For example, some little girls start menstruating before they're 5 years old. They get pubic hair because of the hormones that are in these soy products. It's an absolute scandal.
Yeah, all right. Sue, obviously you would, I imagine, strongly disagree that
I actually do strongly disagree because, in fact, if you look at the entire scientific literature, and there are now thousands of research papers on soy and soy foods, the majority of these papers actually point to very strong health benefits, lowering our risk for heart disease, cancers such as breast cancer, prostate cancer, even osteoporosis. And in fact, there is no evidence whatsoever that these things are harmful for humans.
Now hold it a second.
In doses
I
that
need
you
to talk
consume
about
within a normal
osteoporosis here.
diet. I'm very happy to talk about osteoporosis because, in fact, the very latest research shows that you can actually prevent bone mass in postmenopausal women if you give them soy foods.
All right. Okay, give me 1 minute now to say something.
Certainly.
Soy is filled with phytic acid, which is known to leach calcium from the bones. And Sue Radd is employed by Sanitarium.
No, that's incorrect.
Soy milk.
Sue Radd is not employed by any company. Sue Radd is a nutritionist who works independently for herself, but she does consult to companies such as health food companies like Sanitarium. The point
Sue
about
was on a
phytic acid,
television
I think
show.
we need to know, is that it does bind minerals. You are right, Elaine. It can bind calcium, and we've known this since the 70s. This is not news. It can bind other minerals. But we know that when you have a varied diet, you still get enough calcium. And in fact, now phytic acid is being researched by the leading scientists in this world as an anti-carcinogen. The most important thing is we need to look at what happens to our bones when you consume these soy foods.
All right, Elaine.
Okay, now look, I've given you plenty of time. Give me a minute to say one very, very important thing. Sue was on a television show in New Zealand where she came on as an independent expert extolling the virtues of soy, when in fact she was employed by Sanitarium. There was a scandal and there was a court case that went against the show.
Elaine, can we just keep the whole Sue Elaine argument out of it for a moment?
That's not correct.
Elaine, your research, you're telling us that soy is dangerous. Could you give us some of the research and some of your findings on what it does? Let's
hear some real research.
Thank you. I will be glad to do so. Corporate neutral scientists all over the world are lobbying governments to force them to stop soy formula being sold for babies.
Not true.
And PhDs such as Mary Enig, one of the top lipid scientists in the world, has come out strongly against soy. Raymond Peat,
Why don't
PhD,
they speak at international soy symposia,
Are you going to
Elaine?
allow me to finish?
But they're not the top experts in this area, Elaine. We must tell
So
the
let's just let
public
Elaine
the
finish
truth.
that
It's
statement
not
first of
true.
all.
Sure.
Elaine, keep going.
Raymond Peet, top endocrinologist at the University of Oregon in America, says that soy products destroy the thyroid gland. It makes some people's thyroids go wacky, go up high. It makes others go low. The only people who are really pushing this terrible product are the huge multinationals who are growing hundreds of millions of acres of this poisonous product, and they have to find a market for it. I'm alone in Australia trying to educate people, to teach them. I'm 74 years old. I'm desperate to get the news out before I die.
Elaine, you certainly sound, there's certainly an edge of desperation in your voice there. I mean, you've been campaigning this message loud across the globe almost. You warn us about the problems of soy.
Yes.
But there is such an industry backed up behind the food product now, and researchers, as Sue says,
it's a big money-making industry.
Can I say something, Chris? If you actually look at the bulk of the scientific research that has been conducted on soy, 90% of it has been funded by National Cancer Institutes, National Institutes of Health. These are independent organisations. It's only of recent times that the industries are coming on board, so to speak. They're now finally giving researchers a bit of money because they can see an advantage. They want to get in and make some bucks. But this field has not exploded because of the industry, I can tell you. It's exploded because of some very critical findings in the 1970s by my co-author, Dr. Kenneth Setchell, who is recognised as the world's leading expert on soy, when he discovered that these foods are functional foods. In fact, he has won many awards around the world for his pioneering work. But the most important thing is we should ask ourselves, what do you get served when you go to health spas, health retreats? I was just in the States a few months ago and I visited key health retreats around the US. In every one of those centres, they serve soy in the menu. What do you buy in health food stores? What do Asians eat? What do vegetarians eat? We have a long history of the use of these foods.
Just a minute.
Sue,
just a minute.
Elaine,
this
unfortunately,
is all blatant propaganda.
Unfortunately, Elaine, we're out of time. We're going to have to wrap.
Can't you give me 1 minute? We've
already gone over time, unfortunately, Elaine. I'd like to say, I mean, I've read some of your book, Take Control of Your Health and Escape the Sickness Industry. It is fascinating reading. It is probably worth people balancing up their views and having a look at both sides of this argument. But we would love to have you both back on the show at some stage, but unfortunately we're out of time now. Elaine Hollingsworth.
May I just mention my website so people can read for themselves free?
Sure.
It won't cost them anything to read the truth about this product.
What's the address,
It's
Elaine?
Is she going to let me say this?
Yep.
www.doctorsaredangerous.com. Go to the part on soy. Please, print it.
Could I mention
Give
one
it to your
more
friends.
thing too,
Tell
please?
everyone.
Let me just say that again. It was www.doctorsaredangerous.com.
Wow.
Well, you can probably take from that what you will, viewers.
Well, if you're travelling in the Gold Coast hinterland and you spot the Hippocrates Health Centre, it's a nature retreat that helps change bad habits into good, like eating better food and giving up smoking. The boss is Elaine Hollingsworth, but as Doug Murray discovered, she's an escapee from Hollywood, where under another name she shared the screen with some very famous movie stars.
People are trusting, they take drugs that have unimaginable side effects.
A course of medication failed to reduce the eczema attacking baby Sanya. So Mum Tracy looked elsewhere for answers in Elaine's book.
Something that would heal her naturally, get the body restored to the way it should be.
Tracy found answers, especially in the section on drinking fortified mineral water.
And it's so gratifying to me to see a tiny baby who is suffering hideously get well because of what I've written.
And Elaine's book answers all the questions which most other books don't.
Elaine was so concerned about a commonly prescribed drug that she published full-page advertisements in magazines in all English-speaking countries, warning that it can cause severe autoimmune illnesses and even kill. Elaine smiles while she says that the ads appeared almost a year ago and she hasn't been sued yet. As she says, that's because they know she's done the research and has truth and right on her side. Much to Elaine's delight, her 15-month-long crusade against this drug has led to a severe downturn in the company's shares. To spread the word, Elaine gives free lectures, and her recent Banish Cancer seminar in Mudgeeraba on the Gold Coast attracted 600 people from all over Queensland and northern New South Wales.
I know it's really hard. No one wants to go off grains. Do you know, I've been off them for, it must be 50 years. I was a big sandwich person. I love sandwiches. And I still think about them, but I don't eat them because I know I don't feel well when I do. I feel it drags me down. And at my age, and with the schedule that I have, I work really 7 days a week, at least 12 hours every single day. So I can't mess around. And if I don't stick with my diet, I can't carry on with my workload. Of course, I don't have to. I could retire. Oh, anyone else? Yes.
Any comments on chronic fatigue syndrome with the adrenal syndrome?
Oh, chapter 2. That's my comment. The chances are your adrenal glands are shot, huh? Yeah. Adrenals, well, to me, adrenal exhaustion is probably the worst thing that's happening to people now. And hey, look around you. Why isn't it? What kind of lives are we living? It's just terrible what's going on. Our food supply is tainted. Our lives are filled with stress. Bad things happen all the time. All you have to do is read about what George Bush is doing, and it's enough to put you away. So naturally, your adrenal glands are going to suffer, and maybe you didn't have such great adrenal glands to begin with. And do you have small earlobes? People with small earlobes were born with low adrenal function. People with great big meaty earlobes generally have good strong adrenal glands. Now, it's very interesting that a group of scientists got together and they decided they were going to try to figure out what caused adrenal exhaustion. So they got a bunch of unfortunate rats and they put them through horrible things. These poor rats, they did terrible things to them, which I think is very unfair because all they had to do was ask me. They could have saved those rats because I know from years of experience what it is that stresses adrenals. Aside from all of the stress things that happen to us, there's one thing that's the worst for the adrenal glands, and that is hypoglycemia. And they found that out. They were at the end of their tethers. They could not figure out what caused adrenal stress in rats. And then one of them said, well, let's try a hypoglycemia. So they stopped giving them protein. The rats just went to pieces. Their adrenal glands atrophied. That was the end of the experiment. So if you have adrenal fatigue, you need to eat protein perhaps every 4 hours. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit, and sometimes a bit before you go to sleep to carry you through the night. And if that doesn't do it for you, jump into chapter 2 and take it to heart, because so many people are at this point, they are so wiped out with their adrenals that they've got to get help from cortisol, from the hormone that your adrenals would be producing if it were healthy. Chapter 2.
When asked if she misses the glamorous life she once lived, Elaine says,
I don't miss it at all. When I was young, I was really silly, and I didn't develop my brains. I figured, well, when I hit 40, I'll have to commit suicide because all the fun will be over. But I didn't, and I'm glad because really, now is the most satisfying time of my life, and I'm almost 80. The reason is that I know that what I'm doing is saving lives. Of course, not everybody agrees with me. In fact, I've been labeled subversive and even a wild-eyed fanatic. But the truth is that some of the most prestigious scientists in the world, independent, courageous doctors and scientists, have helped me tremendously. They worked with me when I was writing the book, and I distilled their great research. They did the hard work. I just put it all together in a book to make it easy for people. But getting the word out
is not easy. It's a hard job, and I can't do it alone. Will you join my crusade? Will you help?